Hi, it's Kate Thompson with the RTG team, and I've got the February market numbers for you. And honestly, they're telling a very different story than what we saw in January. Last month, we saw some pretty dramatic price drops across the metro area, and a lot of people started asking, is the market starting to make a move? But when we look at February, it really just confirms what many of us suspected. January was not a market adjustment at all. It was a seasonal slowdown mixed with some pretty brutal winter weather. So now that we've moved into February data, we saw buyers come back out. Prices are up in a lot of areas and homes are selling a little faster. Sellers are getting closer and sometimes even over their asking price. So let's walk through it county by county because each area is telling its own story. First up, St. Louis County. And honestly, this one feels a little bit like a comeback story. For single-family homes, the average price jumped from a little under $352,000 in January to almost $375,000 in February. That's an increase of over $22,000, about a 6.5% adjustment in just 1 month. Days on market improved as well, dropping from 42 to 38 days, and sellers are now getting 99.2% of their asking price, which is up a full percentage point from January. What that really tells us is that buyers were already there. They were just waiting for better weather and the right moment to move. So now they're active again and they're willing to pay. Inventory is sitting a little over 1,700 homes, which is 76 more than in January. But with 1.9 months of supply, this is still very much a seller's market. If you've been thinking about listing in St. Louis County, the market definitely has its momentum back. Now, the condo and townhouse market looks a little different. Prices dipped slightly from $296,000 and change to $292,424, which is about a 1.3% drop. Days on market increased from 46 to 61, and inventory rose to 445 units. So condos are definitely moving a bit slower than single-family homes, which is something we're seeing across the metro area right now. Buyers have more time to think through their decisions and pricing matters more, but sellers are still getting 97.7% of asking price, so the right properties are absolutely still moving. Now, let's talk about St. Charles County, which continues to be one of the strongest markets in the metro area. For single-family homes, the average price moved from $440,000 in change in January to almost $428,000 in February, which is about a 2.8% dip. But here's the number that really matters. Sellers are still getting 100% of their asking price, and homes are selling faster within days on market, improving from 44 to 41 days. So even with that small price adjustment, demand is still really strong. This looks more like the market recalibrating a little rather than slowing down. Inventory sits at 880 homes with about 2.3 months of supply, so it's still a pretty tight market overall. Well-priced homes are moving, and they're moving right at asking price. For condos and townhomes, prices moved from $256,989 down to a little over $248,000 in change, about a 3.4% drop. But these homes are actually selling faster. Days on market improved from 55 to 48 days. Inventory increased slightly to 207 units. So if you've been thinking about buying a condo in St. Charles, this is one of the moments where you actually have options and a little room to negotiate. Sellers are still getting 97.7% of asking, so it's not a fire sale by any stretch of the imagination, but buyers definitely have more flexibility here. Now let's look at Jefferson County, which is a great reminder that affordability and low inventory can still drive strong price growth. Single-family homes increased from $292,940 in January to $306,600 $755 in February, which is up over $13,000, about 4.7%. Days on market improved from 49 to 45 days, and sellers are averaging 100.1% of their asking price. Yes, that means sellers are getting over asking price on average. That's not something you see in a weak market. There are 452 homes available with about 2 months of supply, so buyers are definitely still competing in Jefferson County. And the condo market here has had one of the biggest turnarounds that we've seen anywhere. In January, the average condo price was $193,880, and properties were sitting for about 148 days, almost 5 months. In February, prices jumped to $247,650, which is an increase of over $53,000 or 27.7%. And the days on market dropped all the way down to 23 days. What likely happened here is that the right properties hit the market at prices buyers were willing to pay, and they moved quickly. With only 13 units available across the entire county, when demand shows up, scarcity really drives the value. This is exactly why you can't just look at month-to-month numbers without context. January reflected properties sitting during bad weather. February reflected fresh listings meeting pent-up demand. Next up is Franklin County, and this one is interesting because it really looks like two completely different markets. For single-family homes, prices increased from $285,000 and change in January to $349,537 in February. That's an increase of almost $64,000, about 22.4%. Now, when you see a jump like that, part of it is recovery from January, and part of it is simply which homes happen to close that month. In smaller markets, a fewer high-priced homes can move the average quite a bit. What matters more is that days on market improved from 76 to 64 days, and sellers are getting 98.4% of their asking price. Inventory sits at 372 homes with 3.9 months of supply. Franklin County traditionally moves a little slower than other core metro areas, but the trend right now is definitely moving in the right direction. Condos and townhomes are a different story. Prices dropped from $275,630 to $224,700, which is down over $50,000, or about 18.5%, and days on market increased from 57 to 100 days. With only 30 units available, this really isn't about inventory. It's more about demand and pricing. The condo market here is softer, and sellers who price too high are simply sitting. So, if you're buying a condo in Franklin County, you've got some time and a little negotiating power. If you're selling, pricing strategy is everything. And finally, let's talk about St. Louis City, which had one of the biggest rebounds. Last month, we talked about the 21.3% drop in prices, and February really confirms that much of that was seasonal. Single-family homes went from $217,202 in January to $246,000 and change in February, which is an increase of over $29,000 or 13.5%. Days on market stayed about the same at 54 days, but sellers went from getting 95.4% of asking price to 98.1%. That's a 2.7 jump in their list to sale price, which is actually a big shift. It means buyers are paying much closer to asking when homes are priced right. There are 544 homes available with about 2.6 months of supply, so this isn't an oversupplied market. It's a market where buyers are starting to re-engage. The condo market saw an even bigger bounce. Prices increased from $222,000 and change to $302,000 in change, which is an increase of almost $80,000, about 35.7%. Sellers went from receiving 94.9% of asking to 99.2%. Days on market did increase slightly from 75 to 94, and inventory sits at 215 units with 5.1 months of supply. So condos are still moving slower than single-family homes. But the big takeaway here is that the demand clearly exists. It's just selective. So, what does this all actually mean? Well, first of all, January's slowdown really does appear to have been more seasonal and weather-related. February shows buyers returning to the market. Second, single-family homes remain stronger than the condo market across most areas. So if you're shopping for a house, expect competition and be ready to move when you find the right one. Third, location matters more than ever. St. Charles continues to command premium prices. Jefferson County is seeing sellers receive over asking, and the city is recovering quickly but still offers some opportunities to buyers. Fourth, days on market are improving in many areas, which usually signals that buyer urgency is returning. And fifth, sellers are regaining some pricing power. The percentage of actual ask to what is being received improved in most markets from January to February, which tells us buyers are willing to pay for homes that are priced and presented well. So, if you're a buyer waiting for massive price drops, that's probably not the best strategy right now. The opportunity is really about finding the right property in the right area and being ready when it shows up. And if you're a seller, the spring market has already started to wake up. Buyers are coming back, but pricing and presentation still matter more than ever. Every neighborhood is a little different. Every price range is a little different. So let me ask you this. Would it be helpful for you to have a deeper understanding of the market that you're looking to either sell or purchase in? This is the best way that we can look at your situation and build a strategy that works for this market, not last year's market, not last month's market, but right now. All you have to do is reach out for an easy conversation.